And then we have Roy Chan, who is with VIA. So they are with us virtually. And with that, the agenda, I wanted to just share what we have in store for today, for this morning. We are going to go to the Smart Ride on-demand microtransit services with James Drake. He has a presentation. Then we'll go back to our SacRT Go updates and Rider's Guide highlights. And then our question and answer session will begin, and then we'll have a closing. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Jessica Gonzalez, who is our moderator. Thank you.
Thank you, Priscilla. So first, we are going to get started with that Smart Ride on-demand microtransit services update with James Drake, our Senior Manager of Service Planning. James, take it away.
All right, thank you, Jessica. It's like the slides are up. So yeah, good morning again, everyone. My name is James Drake. I'm Senior Manager of Service Planning with SacRT. And I'm just going to talk a little bit about Smart Ride for those of you who may be new to it. The picture here is basically what Smart Ride looks like. This is a pretty typical vehicle for us. We primarily use paratransit style cutaway buses with wheelchair lifts. Some of you may have seen these in your neighborhood or heard about them, or a friend may have asked you about these services. Friends of mine have asked me about Smart Ride. What is that? I've seen that in my neighborhood. A lot of people may assume that it's paratransit or something similar to that, but this is actually not paratransit. It's open to the general public. Anyone can ride. And we charge just $2.50, the same as the full-size buses and light rail. We also honor all the standard SacRT passes and discounts. So how do you use it? The way I usually describe it to people who aren't familiar with transit at all is it's kind of like Uber, but with a bus. You download an app on your phone, you drop a pin, it takes you where you want to go. Once you book your ride, you can see on the app will tell you as your bus is progressing toward an example on the screen here. I'm showing an example where there's a wait time of 39 minutes for the bus. And on average, our wait times are about 30 minutes. And that, that may be longer than the wait time for an Uber, but Uber might also charge you $10. Our fare is $2.50. And if you're a senior or disabled, you're probably going to be able to ride for $1.25 with discount fare. And also, unlike Uber, we are fully accessible. Currently, we have 9 zones for Smart Ride, meaning you can't actually ride anywhere in the SacRT system. It only runs in these 9 specific areas. Why do we restrict it to certain areas? Basically, this is all we were funded for, and this service is expensive to provide. The funding for Smart Ride has been primarily from local Measure A sales tax, where we won a grant to test this system out back in 2018. Originally, this was supposed to be for 9 zones for just 3 years, but it's been very popular. So we have found ways to extend some of the funding going. How do we decide which areas? Let's just take a look at a few examples. In Elk Grove, Smart Ride serves the eastern part of the city, where there just really isn't enough population to support full-size bus service. Also in the Florin and Gerber areas, we have Smart Ride, and it helps us cover neighborhoods that likewise don't really have much or any transit service. And even in the Franklin and South Sacramento area, where we have another Smart Ride zone, it will actually be tomorrow morning. Even though there is more bus and light rail service there, there's still a lot of neighborhoods and little pockets and road plates where the fixed route bus is a pretty long walk, especially if you're a senior. So one of the things Smart Ride does is it helps us fill these gaps and serve a lot of areas where just can't support a full-size bus. It can be hard to get to. Right now, Smart Ride is just Monday to Friday from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. And also, this is not a service you book in advance. It's an on-demand service, which means you book the same day right when you decide you want to ride. We also use the term corner to corner for Smart Ride. And what that means is Smart Ride typically picks you up and drops you off at the nearest intersection rather than right at your address. Why do we do it this way? Well, every minute matters, and wait times are about every 30 minutes. So we try to shave off as much time as we can. How picking up on the corner means the bus is less likely to have to go down minor streets and cul-de-sacs. On average, Smart Ride customers walk about 500 feet, which is a little more than one city block. We think this is a reasonable way to help keep down wait times. One new feature we recently introduced is when you go to request a ride in the app. In addition to your Smart Ride option, the app will also present you with an option for a fixed route. I'm showing on my screen here an example of a user who tried to request a Smart Ride in the Thomas, but at the time they were unavailable, so the app suggested to the user an option for riding route instead. So how do you get started using Smart Ride? Best way to do it is just go download the app on your phone, Apple Store or Google Play. Once you get the app, it will guide you through setting up an account and get going. Of course, if you have any difficulty with that, we have more information online. You're also welcome, of course, to call in for help at 321 bus. And of course, we have our group here today in management. We'll be happy to take questions, any questions you want to pose. With that, I'm actually going to turn it back over to Jessica.
Thank you, James. Yeah, so we actually have a few minutes to take a few questions specific to Smart Ride. So that we are going to open it up to a general Q&A session in just a few more minutes. But since we just heard James' presentation on Smart Ride, we do want to give you an opportunity. So if you are on Zoom, you can raise your hand and you can ask your question. We will unmute you and let you know that you can now ask your question. If you can't use Zoom, you can call in to our customer service center and they will be able to email us your question that we can ask during the session. So that phone number is 916-321-2877. You then press option 3 and then option 0. And so a customer service representative can email us directly in here and we will be able to ask your question for you. So again, if you have a Smart Ride specific question, you can raise your hand on the Zoom function and you can ask your question. Priscilla, do we see any questions yet? We're checking now to see if you have any Smart Ride specific questions.
Yes, we see one hand. Hold on a minute. We're just trying to find it. There we go. Margie, I want to unmute you and also acknowledge that Margie Donovan is one of our Mobility Advisory Council MAC members. And so thank you, Margie. You should be able to speak now with respect to your question.
Good morning. Thank you, James. I would encourage RT to look into the delays in the rides. Sometimes we believe the app doesn't work properly because we may have to wait 45 minutes and then we find out from the driver they've just been sitting waiting for a call. That's my comment. I have no questions. Thank you.
Okay, just looking to see if anyone else has their hand up, and I'm not seeing any. All right, I think we can probably go back to our agenda.
All right. Thank you, Priscilla. And again, if you have Smart Ride questions later on in the session, that is totally fine to ask. We just wanted to give you an opportunity to ask those questions separately. So now we're going to move forward. We do have some updates on SacRT Go paratransit services. And so we're going to switch the slides to be able to have Richard Mitchell, our Director of Community and Contract Bus Services, share with us a few updates that they have. Richard.
Okay, thank you, Jessica. So first, I would like to start off with, a lot of our customers have spoken up. We have listened, and as a result, we have, effectively made some changes. One of them is new reservation hours, and so we're going to start taking reservations at 7 a.m. And it will go from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. So currently it's 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. But there was a request to open our reservation lines earlier. And as of Monday, October 16th, this will occur. And these hours, 7 a.m. to 5 p.m., will be daily, weekends, and holidays. Next slide. Another thing was the signage that was on the user vehicles and identifying that it is a Go paratransit service. So we had a lot of issues with the magnets that we started off with. We looked at what other systems are utilizing for their identification of their service, and looked at what user has with some of their other clients, and went to a window cling that will be on the front windshield. And we have a photo of that on the screen, but it's basically in the lower right-hand passenger side of the vehicle. And it identifies the vehicle as a SacRT Go vehicle, along with the user decal that will be in the same general area. So one of the things that this started on September 11th. And one thing through monitoring that we've seen is not quite yet 100% compliance, but we definitely have seen a significant increase in the signage being on the vehicles as the user drivers are picking up and dropping off. So this has been a very successful change for us, and we continue looking for other opportunities to improve the signage and communication to our passengers that are utilizing the user system. Next slide. Okay, so now another thing that I wanted to bring up and highlight, and this comes from our rider's guide on page 15, is preventing no-shows. So why would I be bringing this up? Well, the no-shows are an issue that does affect our overall on-time performance. And it's kind of a snowball effect that when it happens at the beginning of the day and continues through the day, next thing we know, we're really running late with the vehicles. And this is kind of like a shared partnership with our passengers and with SacRT that, we have in the rider guide specific directions and specific like policies on when to cancel for the day, and doing that at least 2 hours prior, or being ready 5 minutes before the trip is to arrive. And we know we have the window of 30 minutes, so being ready at the time is really important anytime through that 30-minute window, or when you get notified the vehicle is on its way. Because a lot of times what we're encountering is, beyond the 5 minutes that we're waiting. And we've really been trying to work with our passengers. And sometimes though it ends up being 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and we're going to really start focusing on, reducing that and really trying to stick to the 5 minutes, because overall it's going to benefit all the passengers as a whole as we improve our on-time performance. Next slide. Okay, and then another thing that has surfaced through information from drivers and other other people commenting on us, and these also come from our rider guide on page 8, is having your fares ready. So I've seen a lot of, not a lot, but a certain number of complaints coming through where certain passengers are upset that the driver isn't letting them on board without paying first. And a reason for that is, one, it's our policy is to pay and have your fare ready prior to boarding the vehicle, not board the vehicle and then look for your fare. All of that is continually like little delays, like of minutes and 2 minutes and 3 minutes. And so what we're looking at is things that, again, we can partner with our passengers and try to improve the service, because we are experiencing a lot of increase in ridership and trips per day. We're less than 10% of pre-COVID numbers right now. And we're definitely getting, having an impact from that. And we're looking at ways that we can internally look at our policies to help improve our on-time performance, along with a list of other opportunities to improve with different strategies that we're using, and constantly getting with the team, getting with the drivers, and looking at getting comments back, and trying to figure out how can we change the service, how can we change how it operates, so that we can improve it on our on-time performance. Next slide. Okay, that's the end of my presentation, so I'll turn it over to Jessica.
Thank you, Richard. That was great. So now is your chance. This is the open Q&A session, so you could ask your questions. Again, if you're on Zoom, you can raise your hand to ask your question. We will unmute you, let you know you're unmuted to ask your question. Again, if you can't use Zoom, you can call in to our customer service representatives. They will email those questions you have over to us, and we can ask them live during this session. So we are taking a look now to see if we have any questions. Again, use that unmute feature on Zoom, or you can call in to customer service. Priscilla, do we have any questions?
Yeah, the first question comes in from Lisa Cooley. So we're gonna thank you for raising your hand, Lisa. I'm gonna allow you to ask your question. Lisa, are you able to ask your question, or would you rather I read it?
I've unmuted myself.
Okay.
Will paratransit ever get to the point where they have some sort of cashless type of fare where where a person or a driver could zap in to pay fare or zap us out to pay fare?
We do have the Zip Pass. So that is one way that you're able to pay for the service, and that's also accepted on the user platform. Is that responding to your question, Lisa?
Partially, yes. But will there ever be a more accessible way to manage fare?
Currently their SacRT is in the process of looking at the possibility of having a tap to pay process, like with smartphones. And I know that's being evaluated at this time. And there's been internal discussions, and I think there's even been some discussions externally about this.
Okay, thank you, Lisa. We're going to go to the next question. Margot Scholter. I'm sorry, Margot, if I'm saying your name incorrectly. We're going to allow you to ask your question.
Thank you very much. And I should just say Zip Pass is really successful. I really enjoy using it. And actually, I'm just giving a little bit of feedback that you have. Something happened which raises a question for me. But nevertheless, I want to stress that my trip was handled very successfully. Yesterday morning, I made a reservation for a window of 9 to 9:30, and there was a delay in the system. And I understood that. And it turned out I got picked up at 10:33, and they very smoothly and successfully, when I called Paratransit and I used your menu option 3, they rescheduled my return trip to 12:15 to 12:45. I got picked up at the beginning of the window. That went very smoothly. And my question actually just about a curious anomaly in some feedback I got when I called. I was told that there would be buses picking up at 9:39 or 9:35, which were not there. I obviously went down to be sure that if they came, I would be there and be available to be picked up. But they turned out they did. It turned out the app was accurate because it said that they'd be coming around 10:30. and they wound up picking up at 10:33. So the app turned out to be accurate. I don't know how those other trips got into your system. When I talked to people on the phone, but my app actually was very accurate on what the situation was.
What is occurring with our software that we utilize for our reservations and generating our we call it our manifest. So what the drivers are going to pick up throughout the day is always optimizing. And it's even optimizing up to, I believe I know for sure it's 30 minutes prior to any pickup. Sometimes it's 15 minutes. And so it's looking for ways where those late trips could be down. In addition, we have our dispatchers that are monitoring the late trips and trying to find alternatives. So that's why you'll see a variance of it. And sometimes there may be a pickup time that is generated of, let's say 9:30, and then 10-15 minutes later, it's regenerated at a later time.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, the next person is Albert Trevizio. Albert, we're gonna unmute you now so you can ask your question.
Good morning. I wanted to address the 60 pass. I recently had a situation where I had purchased my 60 pass the day of the 2nd at 10 in the morning. The money was taken from my account about 15 minutes later. However, when I went to use it the following day at approximately 9:30, dispatch had told the driver that I did not have a valid pass. I called dispatch and they said the same thing and indicated that in these words, that if I wanted to ride the bus that day, it would cost me $5. I had just spent $137.50 to be able to just ride the bus. So subsequently, I canceled that appointment. I got on the phone with the rider advocates. They tried to get through to fares. They were unable to. They had to leave a message. After my conversation with the riders advocates, I tried to call fares myself. I had to leave a message as well. The next day was the 4th, which was a free day. So I did the same thing. I called the advocates to see if my pass was valid. They finally said my pass was valid. And then after that, fares got a hold of me and let me know the same thing. My question is couldn't there be an electronic way of finding out if your pass is valid, or couldn't they, or also isn't there a way of validating those passes as quick as the money is taken from the account? It would be awesome to know also how many rides are left on the 60 pass for that month for a rider.
Hi, Albert. This is Jamie from Customer Advocacy, Customer Satisfaction, and received your feedback. We do have a process when the purchase is made that we immediately send the information over to the SacRT team, and they then enter that information in. So when you book a ride, so there is a little bit of a delay without having, and I appreciate you sharing what you went through to get a hold of someone. Typically, it is pretty seamless overall. Occasionally there is something minor that may have happened. I think that might have been the case here. So I'd be happy to discuss it with you offline if that's okay, and we can look into it further. Would you be open to that? And I can reach out to you via phone or email.
Of course, anything that'll help somebody else is always a plus.
Absolutely. Yeah. So you have my commitment. I will follow up with you this afternoon. Okay. Does that work for you?
Yes. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. The next person is, their last 4 digits of their number is 2429. We're gonna unmute you so you can ask your question. The individual that has the last four digits in their number of 2429, feel free to ask your question.
Okay, thank you. Good morning. My name is Natalie Byrne. I don't know if this is the right place in the meeting to bring this up. I'd scheduled around, this was about 10 on the first 10 days ago. To be exact, I scheduled a ride for Thursday, and I had to, when I found out I had to cancel it, I called and canceled it, lickety split. But I still got a U-Serve driver at my door for this particular ride. I rescheduled it, but I thought if I canceled right away when I knew I had to, that everybody would get the message.
Can I ask you if you went through the council line or did you talk to somebody in person?
No, I scheduled a ride for like from October 3rd to October 5th, and then I had to reschedule it for the the 7th, and I thought, like I said, I thought if I canceled it right on the day I made the ride, that everyone would get that ride was canceled.
We can look into that trip, so we would be able to look into our database and see.
Okay, I can tell you the address is from my home address, 8228 Hawaii Lane to Mel Steiner at 3000 K Street for Natalie Byrne.
Yeah, no, all I need is your name. We'll be able to look up that.
Natalie Byrne.
Yeah. And then
Okay, I was just wondering why the U-Serve driver, I know it wasn't his fault, but I wasn't sure why the U-Serve part did not get the message that I had to cancel, and I rescheduled it that same morning for the ride, only on a different day. Just something I thought I'd bring up since I was here at the meeting.
Yeah, and did you call into reservation on that day to cancel the trip and talk to somebody live?
Yes, I did. I sure did right away when I knew it was on the same day I made the ride. That's what I did.
Okay, thank you. That'll be really helpful because we keep those notes in our program, so it'll be easy for us. And we definitely get back to you on this matter.
Thank you for asking the question, for answering the question, for taking my question this morning.
Thank you. All right, the next person that I have listed here is Rick Hodgkins. I'm sorry if I'm saying your last name incorrectly. Rick, we're going to unmute you now so you can ask your question.
Yes. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. I am at the UC Davis Medical Center at the Ellison Ambulatory Care Center on Y Street. If I turn my phone around, you will see a door which goes outside. There are two sets of double doors to go outside. I'm outside the family practice clinic where I was seen today. And the driver that I was dropped off by with U-Serve, he had never been here before. And I told him to go to the back, and instead he dropped me off at the front, not by the eye center, but by the main entrance to this building where family practice is. And I don't know if I have to meet the driver at the door of the building or what, because I'm all the way by the family practice clinic. I mean, I don't see like I used to. I'm not going to be able to know what he or she looks like.
Okay, Rick. I have my team here with Kathy and Sejan, and so we're looking into this and get the information to user. But we definitely give user in the notes, what, like at a complex like UCD, Med Center, the places to pick up. And so we will review that with user to make sure. I know we've talked with them before and they put out information blasts to all their drivers about making sure they're reading the notes. And we'll verify that we have the notes there. But at the UC Med Center, I know that my team went out, did an evaluation of that because you had mentioned being dropped off because of constructions not at the ideal place. So we will reevaluate that we have those spots identified and are consistently going to the spots that we should.
All right, because if you recall, if you can see, I'm pointing my phone at the door that I'm supposed to come in for family practice. The bus is also parked out there as well. The campus shuttles and, paratransit picked me up there one time, the SacRT Go bus, but that whenever it's user, it's always a long walk.
Yeah, Kathy's,
Did
Sejan.
you see the door?
Unfortunately, no, I'm not.
Did you
I'm
see
not
the door?
No, I'm not seeing anything, but Kathy is currently reaching out to user.
Walking to the door right now to show you. Walking to the door right now, so you can see that there's two sets of double doors.
Yeah, no, we're not seeing anything coming through.
Is my video on? Is my video on?
No.
Okay.
The currently your driver is on their way, and we will make sure that they get to the right location for you. So Kathy has your cell phone information, and we'll make sure we're communicating with user and getting the driver to your right location.
Okay. That's interesting that you couldn't see the door because my video was on the whole time. Oh, well, okay.
We might have our settings differently. We're not sure, but for our screens that we can see, for some reason, we're not able to see what other people are sharing. So just to let you know, it's probably not on your end.
Thank goodness it's not on my end. I'm glad of that. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
That'll be all.
Thank you.
That'll be all. That'll be all.
I'm going to go to the next question, unless Richard, did you have anything else that you want to share? Okay, great. So Margie Donovan, we're going to unmute you so you can ask your question.
Hello again. I have a couple of things. I want to address something that Zip Pass and then user. Regarding the Zip Pass, it is not a fully accessible pass for people who are blind or visually impaired. Well, I'm a total, so I'm just going to say for people like me. I don't activate it until the bus arrives. That being because when I have activated it twice, the bus is late and it's outside of the window. Fortunately, I was able to get a hold of someone at RT to verify to the driver that I had activated it. But if we activate it before the bus comes and the bus is out of the window, we have a problem. We've now paid $5, may have to pay again. And because of the challenges with accessibility, and I happen to have manual dexterity issues as well, it takes a while to activate that. So I really hope we get another form of auto payment fairly quickly that is way more accessible. On to user, unless Richard, if you want to make any comments about that.
I know that we are, as an agency overall, looking towards a different type of automated payment system, even a tap in as you board type of system. And definitely the accessibility issue with any of those type of automated fare payments is very high on the list as they evaluate what system to go with.
Thank you, Richard. It's a pleasure having you on board. And now for user, I have a few questions. I recently learned from a driver that when they are given a address to go to, in the main screen, I'm going to call it, where they're notified where they're going to pick up, it gives the range of the block addresses. So say from 1000 to 1020. In the notes, they have to go to get the specific address, and then they have to manually transcribe that into the map system. Is that accurate information?
Margie, on this, I'm gonna go ahead and refer to somebody from user, I think Crystal is logged into the Zoom call, so she can respond.
Hi, Margie. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Thank you.
Okay. I hope you're doing well today. I'm Crystal with Userve. I was able to meet you last time we came out in person. In regards to the information that the drivers receive, they receive an exact address, and the mapping that they get is based off longitude and latitude coordinates. So there is no range. And then if there's any notes that are included in the trip that, somebody wants to be picked up at the side door, or any additional information that the driver needs to see, they are supplied that as well.
Thank you. Another user question. I'll just be open about it. I recently suffered a traumatic brain injury, which I have a severe issue with fragrances and strong body odors. And I have had a couple experiences where I've actually denied a user a ride. RT has sent me a bus due to very strong body odors. And I haven't denied one due to fragrances. However, well, let me let you address that. Then I have one more and then I'll be done.
Okay, not a problem. I am very sorry to hear that. It is something where we do have a policy that prohibits strong fragrances in vehicles, as well as cleanliness of our drivers. If you do experience anything like that, please feel free to give us a call and we will address that directly with the driver. And if it is a continued occurrence, it is something where, there will be next steps taken to advise the driver of how they should be completing trips, as well as maybe they would not complete trips for us anymore.
I'd like to encourage that you get rid of this word strong. That is very subjective. And what is strong to me, what is strong to a driver in terms of fragrances often could be two different things. I hope that you guys would encourage your driver to not use any fragrances. Moving on to my final question. There seems to be a huge gap between many drivers' ability to speak English and communicate who they're there to pick up and communicate exact information about drop-off. And this is a huge problem. I know that right now you onboard only through training on the computer. And I would strongly hope that in the future, even though I don't believe it is in the contract with SacRT, but I haven't seen the contract, just through some conversations, that user would seriously consider having a telephone conversation or a video conference to evaluate that person's ability to speak English. Prior to transportation networks coming into Sacramento County, Sacramento had a taxi commission and they required a few things. I'm not going to get into that. But one of the things they required was the ability to communicate with the passenger. That is a very huge problem with many of the user of drivers. I will now go on mute.
Thank you, Margie. I do appreciate the feedback. What I am going to do is I want to take that offline just so I have all of the information in regards to our training and what is required of the driver. It is something where I do know that they focus on if a driver can communicate with a rider, but I do want to make sure that I give you all of the information in regard to the training program that they go through.
Crystal, thank you, Margie. At this point in time, I have no other hands up. So I believe we're gonna close this out as far as the Q&A. And we have our next slide coming up.
So we just want to make sure that everyone on the on our open house, virtual open house, has asked their question either by raising their hand on the Zoom feature or by calling in to our customer service center, which is 916-321-2877. You can press option 3 and then option 0. So we just want to give a few minutes since it's only 10:44 right now. So we want to leave this open for a couple minutes. But while I have this slide up, I will take the opportunity. Can we put that slide back up? Sorry. I want to make sure that everyone is aware that in their rider's guide on page 2, all of these phone numbers are available. So we hear often that people maybe have trouble trying to find out which option, because we do have our customer service line that can take you to many different places. And so we want to make sure that you know that in the rider's guide, those options are available to you. But 916-321-2877 is your main phone number to call. Again, we'll just have Priscilla do another check to see if there is any more hands raised, if there's any other questions. We do have other guests with us as well. We have our light rail, customer service, bus operations, planning, IT. So there are other people in the room. If you do have any other SacRT related questions, we are happy to answer those as well.
So far, I don't see any hands. Look again.
Well, I will share for now, because we're going to leave this open for a little bit, just in case anyone jumps on a little bit later. But we will share that we will hold another SacRT Go open house in spring 2024. We don't have a date set for that yet, but we are holding our in-person open house tomorrow as well. We hosted this virtual just to see if this was a better option for some of our SacRT Go riders, to make it easier that you don't have to leave the comfort of your home to ask your questions. So hopefully this was successful for you and you got your questions answered. Again, you can still continue to ask any questions that you may have. We will stick around. But if you don't have any other questions, you are free to go. And thank you for joining us today. And again, more information will come out about another open house early next year. Where again, we want to be transparent and share any updates that we may have coming out of these two open houses that we're holding both today and tomorrow, to see if there's anything else. Priscilla, we may have a question.
I think so. We have a hand, someone has their hand up and it looks like it's Chanel. Is that correct? Chanel, last initial R. Well, and you say you can ask your question.
Yes, yes, my name is Chanel. I ride paratransit. The last few weeks, I go to college and the bus always pick up like an hour or 2 hours late. And I'll be there waiting and it'd be almost like nighttime. And I was wondering what's going on about the bus, because sometimes they run late or don't even show up on time and you be waiting for hours. And then on the app, it'll tell you 5:05. Then all of a sudden they come at 7, then you coming home around 8.
Currently, we are experiencing a lot of challenges with our on-time performance. And we're having big swings of, having, acceptable days of on-time performance, and then other days that are not in our acceptable range. And so we're constantly working on that. We have a decent group of drivers that we have recently hired that are in the training process that will help us get more buses on the road. I apologize for the inconvenience that this is creating, and we're evaluating our on-time performance hour by hour, day by day, every single day. I look at it myself. I talk to my team. I will ask them, why did we have a huge issue at a certain time of the day? And it's definitely challenging us in our peak times, which are like the commute hours, the morning hours, and then the afternoon hours. I believe that some of the changes we've made and the strategies will come into play and in a positive way affect you being picked up more consistently within the window range. But it's something that's going to take a little bit of time for us to get there. So I do apologize for the inconvenience that's created for you.
Thank you, Richard.
Real quick,
Chanel.
I just want to move it over to Vineet. You had a comment to share?
Yes, we are looking into the. We are looking at what the vaccine to see what we do. And once we we will let our know and they will get back to you. This portion was supposed to buy March ago. So right once we release.
All right, we have a hand up and that's for Rick Hodgkinston. Hi, Rick. We're going to unmute you now. You should be able to ask the question.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. To clarify, I was picked up and I was dropped off and picked up at the front today at UC Davis. The driver came back to where family practice was and was able to meet me there. But I thought they had to pick up and drop off in the back. Again, I bring this up because not only was I dropped off in the front, today I was also we went out the front to get to the car. So it's kind of just thought I'd let you know that as an observation.
Yeah, thank you, Rick. One of the things that occurred recently in our site assessment and looking at, the construction that was out there and the construction that's not, we are able to pick up and drop off at the front. And so that should be our, for that area, the UC Med Center, our main destination of pickup and drop off in the future.
In the what about the back? Because my clinic is closer to the back, and that's the issue I have.
Yeah, if you have a preference of the back, we can put that in the notes and have that as your drop off and pickup.
I just prefer the back better than the front because my clinic is nowhere near the front. And a shout out to Margie. Thank you for talking about drivers thank you for bringing up the fact that there are drivers with user that who don't speak English. So that's an issue I have myself. Thank you.
Okay, and Rick, just to follow up, I have Kathy Sejan sitting next to me and she just took the notes that for you to be picked up and dropped off in the back.
Yes, thank you.
And we do have our first emailed question. So I'm going to share that. And if our panelists can help us answer these questions. So the question is, when will the software be user-friendly, like ZipPass having issues with entering 3-digit codes? Can you use Apple Pay? So this really kind of comes down to our next steps with a tap device being added to our paratransit vehicles, similar to what we have on light rail, which does allow Apple Pay, if I'm correct, Vinny. So something that's not there currently, but something we're looking at adding. We currently have those on our light rail trains. So that is the possibility of a future fare option. Anyone else want to add anything to that part of the question? I have a second part of the question. Okay. And then he doesn't want to speak with someone directly, so we will reach out to this customer after this meeting. And then the other question he has is to get a copy of the Rider's Guide emails. And yes, we can also do that. It is also available on our website for anyone who does want to access the Rider's Guide, which is available in English and Spanish. That is at SacRTgo.com. SacRTgo.com has the Rider's Guide, but we can always email that or mail that out. You can request that anytime.
Rick, did you have your hand up again? Because we can unmute you. We'll unmute you for a second here.
Yes, speaking about the light rail, I hope to go back on the Connect card. I hope to get a Connect card pretty soon because I'm being nominated for a Transit Advocate Award. So if I get a Connect card, I want to make sure that we do not discontinue the Connect cards, because in the years past, I've gotten a Connect card from Alta California Regional Center, and this is the only technology that we know. And speaking of the Connect cards, the buses have a way to swipe your Connect card, just like all of the transit systems down in San Francisco and that whatnot have a way to swipe your Clipper card. I also have a SFMTA Clipper card for the Bay Area. But my point is this: the place where you would swipe the terminals inside the light rail stations where you would swipe your Connect card, they often get damaged by people who aren't there to use the light rail. They're just there to horse around and horseplay. And to prevent, to stop this inconvenience, we should have the Connect card terminals, the same ones you find on the buses, should also be on the light rail trains. This way, what if someone gets on a light rail train and they're approached by a fare inspector, and they tell the fare inspector that they could not tap their Connect card at the station because it was damaged, and the fare inspector might say, "Guess what, pal? My word against yours, or your word against mine. I don't want you on the light rail train unless you tapped your card first." And if someone is blind and can't find a working terminal at the station to tap or swipe their Connect card, that's going to be on. This presents a problem. So those are my things about the Connect card. Do not discontinue it. If it needs to be updated, so be it. But let's get those terminals on board the trains as well. I mean, you're doing it for Zip Pass. Let's do it for Connect card. Thank you.
Thank you for your question. This is Jessica Gonzalez with marketing. I'm going to answer maybe some of your questions, and then we'll see if others have anything else to add. First, I want to say congratulations. If I heard that correctly, you're going to be one of our transit champions that we're going to recognize at one of our upcoming board meetings. I do want to say, if the Connect card isn't an option for you, we can always transfer that over to Zip Pass, just to let you know. That's something Jamie and her team can help us with. But as the Connect card, it still stands today, but we are looking at other opportunities that we may have. So riders don't have to worry that all of a sudden we're going to stop using it altogether. There will be a transition period. We will, have lots of conversations and messaging about what our future could look like. But we are trying to find an easier way for people to pay fare. As we hear, from many people today, that is one of the challenges that they have. So that's something we're trying to find a better solution as we move forward for fare options. And we agree, one of the challenges that we do face is fixing the tap devices for Connect card readers in stations, because they do get vandalized. And so that is one of the challenges. And so we did start last year the tap devices on light rail trains if you have a contactless payment form. And so those are on all of our light rail trains currently. And so that kind of was a pilot that we started. And that's the possibility that we could move over to SacRT Go vehicles and possibly extend in the future. But we're looking at all of the opportunities that we have to move forward. I don't know if anyone else has anything to share on that piece or on any of the other comments.
And I do have someone else's hand up. So
Okay.
we're gonna just see if anything else to share yet on the panel. Okay. Thank you, Rick. We're gonna go to Margie Donovan. Margie, we're unmuting you now so you can ask your question.
Yeah, I actually have a comment for Rick regarding the Connect card in the light rail stations. Prior to COVID, I used light rail a lot. When I had this problem, I called customer service to report it. That way, if a fare person on the train questioned me, there was a documentation that at the Iron Point Light Rail Station, the capper machine, that's all what I've always called it, was out. It was not talking. I don't know if it accepted mine. There's a record. So if you do run into any kind of a challenge, which I never happened to run into, there was a record of it. And I think that's the answer for now if you have a problem. That was an answer RT staff gave me. And I felt very secure that I wasn't going to end up in court for not paying my fare. Thanks.
Thanks, Margie. All right, I'm not seeing any other hands at this point. Let me just double check. No other hands are up.
So I'd like to make one comment. There was an earlier question about the 60 day pass and knowing how many are still left. And currently the process is that they would have to call in, and they can call in to reservationists. And then we would be able to look up in our program to see how many rides are still left on the 60-day pass.
All right, so if we, Priscilla, no more questions on your end?
No.
Okay, we didn't have any other emails as well. So what we're going to do, if we could change it just to our last thank you slide, we will finish the meeting. Again, as I had mentioned, we will leave it open until 11:30 because we had said we're going to leave it open until 11:30. So if there are questions that pop up between now and then, we'll be happy to answer those. But we will officially end our meeting, let the rest of our guests go. Some of us will stay behind to answer questions. But again, if there's any other questions, you can always call in. You can raise your hand during the next 30 minutes. We will end the meeting at 11:30. And our next SacRT Go open house, besides the one in person tomorrow, will be in spring 2024. So we thank everyone for joining us today. We will dismiss the majority of our panel. We will keep some of our SacRT Go staff with us in case there's some additional questions there. But again, for everyone that joined us today, thank you so much for your time. And we will end our meeting. Oh, it looks like we may have one more question from Priscilla. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's Rick Hodgkins. We're going to unmute you, Rick, so we can ask your question.
I have one question about the zip pass. Will they be accessible to the blind? Because what about the zip pass? Will it be accessible to the blind? And what app would I have to download if we transition to zip pass? Thank you.
Pass may not be compliant, but application which can be a solid account-based system, and we can have requirements for accessibility. And WCAG 2.1 AA in that new consolidated app that we are doing about it.
So we're still in the process for what Vineet was talking about, still in the process of that consolidated app, which we will make sure is ADA compliant. So as we're mentioned, so Zip Pass as of today probably wouldn't be the best solution, but we are working on that solution.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Rick. This is Kathy. I just wanted to let you know, many of our blind or people with low vision use our Zip Pass now. In fact, Margie is one of them that uses the Zip Pass.
Thanks, Kathy. I'm not seeing any other hands at this point. As Jessica said, we're going to keep it open for a few more minutes. We're scheduled till 11:30. And we also have this information, this webinar will be available through YouTube. And we have recorded it. So there are ways to share this information with others if you have other folks that are on Go that would benefit from it if they're not coming to the open house in person tomorrow. Thank you. Oh, I have Margie's hand up. Margie, I think we have unmuted you.
Yes, you have. I just want to say, as a user of RT, SacRT Go services, that given the vast population and the vast mileage and what COVID has done, that even though sometimes there's issues that are very frustrating, the most effective way to get them resolved is to email or call customer service. Don't wait until there is a meeting like this. Timeliness is important. Sending in compliments on operators is important. Sending in compliments on user drivers is important. And I think in general, we have challenges with user, but I think we're slowly getting them worked out. I think this is a much better service than what we had in the past with paratransit contracts. And my own personal experience is if we are active advocates at the time that something happens, RT can be more effective in resolving the issues. I also want to acknowledge the people from USERV for being here, even though there's not a lot of questions about USERV, but it is a hot topic in this community. And I think there's issues to be worked out, but I have the faith with Richard on board that we can work out those issues. I want to thank the whole RT team for continuing to have these open houses. Make yourself available to the public. I think that's really important. I hope when people come that their personal stories are fewer and fewer because you've addressed it by contacting customer service, and whichever way is most accessible for you to do that, by a phone call, by an email. But I also want to encourage you, especially if you're riding SacRT Go, to make sure if you get a great driver who goes above and beyond, to send in a note of commendation or call it in. Thank you.
Margie, thank you so much. It was actually great to hear your perspective of, pre-COVID, also pre-SacRT, taking this back into house, looking at the positives, knowing, all the work that goes into helping people get to where they need to go every day. And we also believe Richard's doing a great job with his team to fix any of those challenges that you're facing, and Jamie and her team helping make that happen as well. So thank you, Margie. We appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you very much. We have one more hand up, and it's a phone number with the last four digits of 1400. We're going to unmute you so you can ask your question. Can you hear us?
Hello?
Yeah,
Yes,
we can
I
hear
hear
you. Go
you.
ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes, what's your name?
Thank you. My name is Tommy. I waited for last because I missed the first 20 minutes. Was having trouble with Zoom. I just wanted you to, if you wouldn't mind recapping what announcements we made in the very beginning, which I missed. Can you hear me now?
Sorry, could you ask your question again, Tommy?
Yeah, I said I waited till last to ask this question because I couldn't sign on early on Zoom, and I missed the first 20 minutes or so of your meeting. Just want to know what type of announcements you guys made at the very beginning.
Actually, we did talk about the Smart Ride on Demand microtransit service. And as I had mentioned just a few minutes ago, we do have all this available. That'll become available on YouTube, and that I can share it with you directly too, if you'd like. Since you weren't able to in the very beginning, I would just need to.
Yeah, something about
phone number. I'll get your information offline.
We can have Richard, if you want to just give the quick four updates we have on SacRT Go. Richard did give a quick update on a couple of things that we wanted to make sure riders were aware of. He's just taking a look at his notes real quick, and we'll let Richard share that.
Yeah, thank you, Tommy.
Thank you.
And one one item that we talked about was effective October 16th, which is this Monday. Our new reservation hours are going to be 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. And that's a change from what our current reservation hours are of 8 p.m. to 5 p.m. So we're basically taking calls an hour earlier. And this is based upon comments from our users of our system requesting that. And so we've made that change. Also, with the identification of the user vehicles and the issues with the magnets on the side of the vehicles falling off, having issues with them in general, we went to the window cling concept, which is used at very commonly used at other systems that or other contracts that user has. And it is I think it's a 5-inch by 5-inch sticker in the lower right-hand corner of the front windshield on the passenger side. Also reviewed from our rider guide on page 15, our no-show policy, and just explaining how no-shows, late cancellations at the door, or even not being ready within 5 minutes of our arrival, how that affects our on-time performance. And it's kind of like a snowball effect that happens throughout the day. And then with the challenges we currently are having with our increase in ridership and our on-time performance, that this is an area that we could improve on, working with our current customers that we have. And then also having the fares ready at the time of boarding. So prior to boarding, from page 8 of our user guide, it references that the fares are to be collected prior to boarding, and to have the exact fares. So whether you're paying from like a zip pass or cash or a ticket, to make sure that that fare is paid to the driver or shared with the driver prior to boarding.
Perfect. And all of
Okay,
this
that-
information
that's-
will also be posted on the website, sacrtgo.com. We'll also share this video so that people can check that out there and on our YouTube page. I do have an emailed question in that I'm going to read. So a writer would like to know if we can create a rating system for the drivers. He stated everyone does not want to wait for an advocate by calling in. And so one of the things that I have been talking with Carmen about is to create a rate my ride, similar to how other companies rate them. And so that's something we're considering implementing. We are still working on that. So maybe hopefully in early 2024, that's something we can look into doing. And it's another great way to get some feedback, both positive and things that we can work on as well. Priscilla, any other questions on your end?
I do not see any hands at the moment. Thanks, Jessica.
Okay, so I really will let our panelists go this time. We will keep the questions open though for the public to either raise their hand or email customer service for another few minutes until 11:30. So please feel free you can log off, or others that still have questions, please feel free to answer, but I will let the rest of our panelists go besides SacRT Go staff in case we get any SacRT Go related questions. So thank you again, everyone, for joining us.
All right, it looks like we have one more question, I believe, from Rick Hotchkins. I'm gonna unmute you.
Can you hear me now?
We can hear you.
Okay. One other question about SacRT Go is a few weeks ago, I made the mistake of going to the gym that I belong to on a Thursday morning. I did not know this till the day of, but that they closed the swimming pool between 7:30 and 10 in the morning. And, you know, my workout is otherwise over and I wanted to go early. And at first, I wasn't going to be picked up till 9 o'clock, but then somehow they moved it to 9:20 and I needed to be back at home. And it was going to be a bus. Again, I'm sorry if I was ready early, but I finished my workout and I wanted to leave. And for them to move the ride from 9 to 9:20, that's what I'm concerned about. Why was that done? Doesn't happen all the time. I still thought I would bring it up. And I would want to thank all the user drivers that have done whatever they could to help me, and in some cases gone above and beyond while I'm at it.
Yeah, Rick, can you restate what the issue was? Because it sounded like at first you wanted to leave earlier because the pool was closed. But then at the end, you
Yeah.
had the question of why your trip was changed from 9 to 9:20.
Yeah, that was a two-part question. Sorry about that.
Okay.
Yeah, I wanted.
We're looking up that trip now to look at the latter part of the question. The second question was the change from 9 to 9:20. But
Yeah.
in the morning, making changes to trips on the same day is basically a process of canceling a trip and rebooking. And we're not able to rebook trips for the same day. Our system is making reservations at least 2 days prior to the pickup, and then, altering those pickup and drop off times are, not really possible for us at this time. Looking at the we're still looking up your trip on the other one, and then we can call you back offline just to look at what happened to that, the 9/9/20, and then go into
No, I didn't really want to cancel the trip. I just wanted to leave early because this was unexpected. I know now not to go there on a Thursday morning, but I'm sorry I needed to bring that up. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, it's just in the general process that we have is, leaving early is changing your pickup time to an earlier one, and that would have to be rescheduled, and that's what we're not able to do on the same day. So, but we'll look into the other part of the question and get back to you, Rick.
Okay.
Thank you. I have one more person with their hand up, and I'm going to unmute Mary Barth. Go ahead, Mary. Hello? Mary, are you able to speak, to ask your question? Well, we're either having some technical difficulty on Mary's end. We have allowed you to ask your question. We unmuted you. And we're not able to hear you, Mary. So you could also send your question in even through the chat right now, potentially, since you're unmuted. You can also call the number that we mentioned earlier, which is the 321-2877 option 3 option 0. Mary has lowered her hand. Just see if there's anything in here. Don't think so. All right, hopefully Mary will be able to get her question to us with those other options. And I have no one else with their hand up at this point. mention that we have three people still on the webinar. And three that are staff, so there's six total. It is 11:20, and we can give it a couple more minutes. I'm not sure if anybody will be joining us this late in the game, but we'll give it a few more minutes before we close. Thank you.
Yeah, since we announced it goes to 11:30, we want to keep it open just in case anyone wants to pop on for last minute. So we will be open till 11:30 and then we will close the meeting. And it is now 11:30. We're going to officially close the meeting. Again, thank you for everyone who attended.